Hello, I'm Janna, and welcome back to the Crafty Corner. Today is super exciting. We are going to be exploring some of the new die sets from the latest Tim Holtz and Sizzix release from the vault. There are some unbelievably good dies in here, and a few that I definitely wasn't around for to get my hands on when they were first released. So I'm super excited to have a creative play with these today. Today we're going to be focusing on the wreath and floral die, as well as some of those beautiful scribbly butterflies. All right, if you'd like to see exactly which supplies we're going to be using for today's project, go ahead and pause here. All right, let's head over to the Crafty Corner. First of all, a very big thank you to the Funkie Junkie and Sizzix who sent me these two die sets to create this video. I am so happy that we have got the Vault Funky Wreath and Florals, and we also have the Vault Scribbly Butterfly set. These are going to be so fun to play with. So let's dive right in and start. We're going to be beginning with making a card base or two, and we're going to be using some alcohol inks. I haven't used alcohol inks in a while, so today seemed like a great day to pull them out. Not only are we using alcohol inks, we're also going to be using some alcohol ink pearls. So to start with, I have splashed down a bit of blending solution and then a dash of glacier. Next, we're going to add a little sprinkling of mushroom on here for a vintagey feel. Okay, and I was using the larger 2-ounce bottles. Now we're going to dive into the pearlized alcohol inks. We've got Elixir, Opulent, and Tranquil. These are going to make a beautiful, cool-toned background. So, of course, with these, we need to give them a really good shake because it's got all sorts of sparkly goodness at the bottom. And the mixing ball is going to help reincorporate those into the alcohol ink. Once they're all nice and shaken, we can then start drip dropping onto our background. For the substrate of this background, I am using some Yupo paper. All right, giving the other one a very good shake. Let's go ahead and add some of that beautiful green. That is sizzling. Oh, I forgot how beautiful these are. Must remember to play with these more often. Ever so pretty. Okay, now we're going to go in with some of the Opulent. Oh, that is such a rich purple. I love that. Now, just adding a little bit more blue. Okay, I think that should be just about enough ink on here. Now, we're going to want to start moving this around a little bit. And to do that, I'm going to be bringing in the Ranger Tim Holtz ink blower tool. And we're just going to be giving little puffs of air around our card base to move that ink around and start blending it out a bit. I'm just hoping to kind of avoid getting clusters of solid color. I want everything to kind of flow and to mix. Right there, that green and blue, that's starting to get really, really pretty. Okay, so now we're going to get two backgrounds at the same time. We're just placing a second piece of Yupo paper over the top, applying a little bit of pressure, a little slide, and there we go. We now have two beautiful mirrored backgrounds, and they are oh so shiny. So let's go ahead and jump into some card making. Here's the background that we're going to be using, and I love how that dried. It's so flowy and inky, and the colors are perfect. For the first card, we're going to be starting with the Tim Holtz Vault Scribbly Butterflies, and I'm going to be using that top one cut out in blue first today. I have already die cut a whole bunch of the filigree type pieces in black distress heavy stock, and I'm going to be gluing these onto the card front. Normally, I would much rather use double-sided sticky tape, but with the distress heavy black cardstock, and it's the one that's like kind of got this velvety texture to it, I found that the die doesn't like to cut through that extra layer of adhesive. So to avoid any of these troubles, I decided that we're going to be gluing these on instead using some collage medium and one of the collage medium brushes. we're just going to open up the collage medium and take one of our pieces, and I'm going to just brush this lightly over the top, and hopefully things are going to stick down and stay in place. So we're just going to take that brush, and I'm just going to brush that on, and then we'll try to put this on our background. Now, this could be interesting because Yupo is kind of slick, so this might have a little wait time for adhesion. All right, we've got our butterfly, so let's go ahead and place this down. Okay, so that seems to have stuck down pretty well without too much glue ooze, but I've got quite a bit of mess on the craft mat, so just taking a flower cloth towel, we're just wiping that up, and now we're going to put down the next butterfly piece and add the collage medium. Pretty much I'm going to have to clean the media mat between each butterfly piece because it is going to get very sticky very fast. So we're just going to stick that down, and I am going to need to hold that in place for a bit. So I just took the lid of the collage medium jar, and that's going to hold a larger surface area than my fingers could manage. And bonus, I won't get stuck to the project. So we're just going to hold these pieces down a little bit before moving on to the next one for more glue. And of course, I'm going to have to do cleanup in between each of the butterflies. Okay, so more glue. And we'll be back in a moment after I have the rest of these butterflies glued to our background. Here we go with our beautiful butterfly background. We do have a bit of glue ooze, and these are definitely going to need a little bit more time to dry. So we're going to go ahead and set that aside while we pull in some elements such as the Ranger Gold embossing powder and some vellum, as well as the stamp set CMS 463 note quotes to make our sentiment and focal point. We're going to be using the rounded ink splotch and the inky outline. And we're going to be using some Dusty Concord archival distress ink. So first things first, we're going to need an acrylic stamping block, and I want to do the solid ink splotch first. We're going to just take that and stamp it directly onto the vellum. Just inking that up. There we go. We've got a nice dusty purple to work with. And let's stamp that down. All right, good firm pressure and lift. Perfect. We have now got an ink splotch. Next, we're going to go in with the outline, and this we're going to be stamping with Distress Archival Black Soot. All right, so we'll just grab that with the acrylic block, and we'll be able to stamp that down. Just getting the ink, and we'll just quickly tap that on. Good. All right. And now we'll add that over the top. Great. So I'm kind of thinking right now that we're going to emboss the center of this with the quote, and then I'm going to cut this out after the embossing is all done. And for the quote, we're going to use Shine Brightly. Definitely one of my favorites. All right, good. Now, we're definitely going to be drying this off. I'm using the anti-static pouch. And before we emboss this, I think I'm going to hit it with the Ranger Heat tool just to make sure we have a nice, clean, stamped image. Now I'm going to go in with the Distress Embossing Dabber to add some of the embossing ink to that little stamp. All right, here we go. We've got our embossing powder. We're going to tip that right back into the jar, and beautiful. We've got a nice, crisp, clear image. So I'm just going to pull in the Sizzix embossing gun for the moment, and we're going to give this a quick heat And it's embossed just like that. Now I'm just going to take the tonic snips and we're going to cut pretty carefully around the outside of this. I'm going to try to include some of the inky spatters. So we're just going to do a wibbly wobbly cut all around, and then our focal point and center point with quote will be all set. There we go. Nice and easy. So now that this part is done, we will need to bring back our background and start the assembly process. All right, background's looking pretty good. It's mostly dry. Now, before we start adding in the sentiments, I want to add some decorative washi tape on the outside of the card. But we're also going to need to trim the little pieces of the butterflies that are hanging off the edge of the card. So when I do this, I prefer to just flip my card base over and take the tonic snips to trim off the pieces. That way I don't have to think too hard about what I'm cutting off the card. And I don't know, it's just easier to keep the mind clear without having to worry about having to cut die cuts and pieces that otherwise look really good. All right, there we go. Just working around the edges. A little trim here, a little trim there. I think we just have a little bit on this corner, and then we will be all set to add the ATG tape and our decorative tape border, which is from an Ideology tape collection. All right, so I'm just going to take that decorative tape and run it along the edges to make sure that these do stay in place, especially on as slick a surface as Yupo. I do like to do a little run of tape with the ATG gun before sticking down that beautiful washi tape border, just to make sure that everything is going to stay in place. I really, really, really love that tape, and I hope that we're going to see more this year from Tim Holtz. I know that the washi tape isn't always one of the most popular products, but I just find it adds such a lovely touch to decorating cards, and I particularly love this really skinny tape. I believe that is 1/4 of an inch, and that for me is the absolute perfect border to add finishing touches to a card. Okay, so let's work on the next side. Today I decided to go with one of the measuring tape tapes, and I like these a lot because they're usually in neutral colors, and that just allows the main part of the card to be where your attention is drawn, and it just acts as a wonderful neutral to help highlight other sections of the card that are super colorful, and it frames the work. I don't know why. I like my cards best when they are framed. It just seems to have balance, especially when we've got kind of a chaotic background like all these scribbly butterflies. All right, last side. Ooh, missed a couple of spots with the scissors. Oh, let's get down the tape first, and then I think I'll need to trim those off. All right, last side. We'll just take that. We'll stick that right here. Good. And we'll just tuck the little corners behind, and that will give us a wonderful frame. Okay. And let's just snip those 2 little pieces off. Good. All right. Super happy with this. Next, I think we'll put the sentiment in the center. So since this is on vellum, I'm going to be pulling in a different type of roller tape. I found this roller tape online, and it's specifically formulated for vellum. I don't know why, but it seems to really work, and it's almost invisible when you ever put it on the back of a vellum piece. So well, let's go ahead, stick a little bit on there, and we'll put this down in the center. Perfect. Ooh, I really like that little added shine in there with the embossing powder. Okay, time to finish this off. Of course, I've got to bring in some of the Ideology metallic droplets. We're going to use some of the gold ones and give a little golden accent at each corner of the card. These might have been a seasonal item, but I really find that they can fit with any theme and or holiday. So A little bit of collage medium in each corner, and we'll just drop the drops in. Honestly, metallics are wonderful, and they too do act like a neutral and can be paired with pretty much anything. Gold if you want to warm something up, silver if you want to cool something down. Ooh, there we go, completed card. So we've got a little bit of glue that's going to need to dry. So for now, we're going to set that beautiful card aside. Let's move on to card number 2, featuring the funky wreaths and florals. And of course, we're going to have another butterfly to pull in from the Scribbly butterfly die set. So here is the mirror of our first background. And for this, we're going to be building a wreath. I've already die cut the funky floral wreath out, and we've die cut on some of the Sizzix textured paper. And that should give us a great foundation to build on. And we'll be able to add in some flowers after I've done a little bit of weeding here. And then we'll have some flower building to do. For the wreath, I decided that I wanted to do 2 layers. We're going to start with a layer of dark green. And I'm just going to add some little drops of collage medium before we stick that down onto the card base. Once that's down, we're going to go in with the lighter green and start layering up this wreath. While we're at it, let's go ahead and take care of the lighter green piece as well. So that one needs just a little bit of weeding. We'll set the scraps off to the side, and then we'll also add more collage medium to this one as well. So I'm just going to add some more drip drops, and then these will be ready to place right onto our background. All right, we've got glue on both of our wreath segments. So let's go ahead and put these onto our background. We're going to go with the light green first. Just going to lightly press that down, and then we will overlap the dark green portion. Just going to try to turn this and figure out where it's best going to line up. We're definitely going to be a little off center, which is just what I want, so that it looks like we've got a really full wreath. Okay, that's good. Press that down. Great. That is giving us a great start to this card. So next, we're going to need to pull in some florals as well as some other leafy greens that I die cut that came with the set. And I'm also kind of thinking we might want another washi tape border. So I'm going to go with this geometric design. And again, we'll need that ATG gun to give us some extra sticking strength as we place the washi tape around the card. All right, let's place that down. Again, I'm using another black and white washi tape, and that's going to help draw attention to all that beautiful color on the interior of the card. All right. So we're just going to work our way around, and we'll keep extending that border until it matches all the way around on all 4 sides. All right, got another side pretty much done. Now, when I tuck the corners and the edges, I like to give myself at least ½ an inch, maybe a little bit more, so that the tape will have something to stick to on the back. And if you have enough tape, then it should stick down pretty well. But if you short yourself, then I found that some of those little tape ends will come up at some point. So I like to give myself a little bit of extra overhang just to make sure that those edges can be stuck down nicely without any surprises later on. All right, there we go. This would be side number 3. Smoothing that down and tucking the little tape tabs behind. And sometimes I have a little bit of extra ATG tape sticking over the edges. I don't put an entire strip down. I kind of offset, so that usually means I've got some hanging off the edges. So even after I put my tape on, there's usually a little bit of adhesive gunk oozing over the side. But that's not a big problem. I can just take a finger and run my finger along the edge of the card, and that usually cleans up that overhang quite nicely. All right, there we go. We've got the frame ready. So that means it is time to start looking at building some florals and putting together our focal point butterfly. So for the butterfly, we die cut the backing out of Yupo and alcohol ink, and the front part is Distress Craft Stock Black. Now, this time, instead of using the paintbrush, I decided to just put a few dots on here, and I'm going to use my finger to spread the glue around to see if this is a smoother way of applying glue and getting it to stick to things. So far, so good. Just want to make sure that we're getting a nice, even coating across the butterfly. So just carefully spreading it out and making sure that I'm paying particular attention to the edges and the antennae, because I think those areas might have the greatest tendency to pull up after we put this down. All right, so we're going to just line things up on here. Oh, that looks so good over the alcohol inked background. That is such a splash of color, and the black just really defines all of those details. Definitely good. I think I'll have to try this with a metallic in the future as the background, and might need double-sided tape for that. But right now, rainbow alcohol inked butterfly. That is gorgeous. All right, just giving that a moment or two to stick. It's looking pretty good. Ooh, really pretty. All right, let's set that aside. And now we've got some flowers to build. So here I have some other alcohol inked backgrounds that I die cut some of the funky florals out of. And we're going to be mixing and matching to set up these beautiful florals. As you can see, some parts have several layers. All right, let's go ahead and put this part on fast forward. Now that we have all of our parts assembled, it is time to start decorating the wreath. Here I'm going to be starting with some of the greens that have been die cut, and I'm just going to take these and place them in spots that I think might be a little blank and in need of a bit more color and texture. So I'm trying to put the really bright leaves on top of the darker leaves and vice versa. So we're just going to go in and dab on some collage medium, and we're going to continue to build layers into our wreath. Then we'll go in and add all of the beautiful flowers that we have put together. So we're going to be going ahead and putting this on fast forward as we continue to build our wreath. All right, let's take a look at that butterfly. That is dried very nicely, and that's going to make a great focal point to the card. But first, we're going to flip that over, and we're going to be adding some foam squares on the back of it to give it some lift. I've got some rectangular foam squares, and we're just going to put 5 of these down, 1 for each wing segment and 1 for the middle. And that will give our card a little bit more dimension. Okay, 1 more piece. Great. Now we just need to take the backings off these, and we'll be ready to place that on our card. All right, here we go. Looks like we got 1 more. Wonderful. So we're going to be taking that, and we're going to bring our background right back in. And let's stick this down right in the center. Ooh. I just love the colors that we've got going here. We've got so many beautiful cool tones, and then we have that black in the middle that just really pulls all of this together. That makes me incredibly happy. Oh, looks like I have a little trimming to do over here. Good. Now we're going to need a sentiment. And for the sentiment, I decided to pull in the Tim Holtz metallic sticker book, and I found the sentiment, "It's a Wonderful Life." And that is just seeming to be a great one. I'm thinking about spring and flowers and new things. And that is a lovely time of year. And just look at all the beautiful florals and layers that we have created. I am so happy with this card. And the From the Vault set, absolutely wonderful. And take a look at this. Using just 2 die sets, we've created 2 very different cards, but using a very similar color palette. Thank you so much for joining me here today at the Crafty Corner for the From the Vault theme at the Funkie Junkie Inspiration Ave blog. I love the new collections that Tim Holtz and Sizzix have put together. It is so fun to revisit old dies and dies that are new to me, but definitely have been in the collection for quite a while. I am going to enjoy building with this collection so much. And I hope that you've enjoyed the process today, where we have created 2 very different cards using only 2 die sets and a variety of crafty supplies. And until next time, happy crafting.